Dean Vendetta. Missing nut, missing the truss rod cover. Truss rod itself looks good. I haven't tested it. Definitely missing nut, truss rod cover. Dirty and oxidized frets and fingerboard, but clean. One nick on fret 4, I see. One dent on fret 8. That fret's gonna have to get replaced. That's the loser right there. Hopefully I'll have fret wire that size. Stock pickups. Filthy. Real dirty right now. The neck is straight at least, with that fret is okay. Stock tremolo. Copy of Fender. No electronics. Big chips out of the bottom. Very relic guitar if I get it fixed and playing right. I have this going up as Luther's project right now. If I don't have anybody pick it up as their own project, I'll end up fixing it up and reselling it. But these are decent guitars. I'll put it up cheap for sale for a Luther project to begin with. There's no nicks on the back of the net. I got that one bad fret so far. Body's got a lot of natural relicking from whoever didn't take great care of this guitar to begin with. No shielding. Pickup leads appear to just have been cut. That'll be the first thing, is to double check the integrity of the pickups themselves. I only got one wire going into the cavity here, and obviously I should have two. I also don't see the ground wire coming out of there, so those pickups I'll test to make sure I have the leads on it first. Tuning machines on this thing. A little loose. Eighth fret. I don't even know how I could dent just like that. It looks like it took a hit of something. It pounded it. That whole fret's gonna have to go. This is the 8th fret on that Dean Vendetta that I got that was bent, and I literally just tapped it back in place. Using a little paper towel as a cushion around a file that's something hard, and a metal hammer, and tapped it very lightly and bent it back into shape. I'll hit it a little bit more with the file, but I'm pretty pleased with how it came back into shape. Be hard for people to tell the difference. Plus, once I crown it and just file it and finish it a little bit, it's going to be pretty nice. I'm proceeding to get this Dean Vendetta cleaned up a little bit here, and I'm going to be conditioning the fingerboard today. I already worked on getting that 8th fret pushed back into place. That's right there. And just kind of bending that back into shape before I actually do a little final crowning and sanding it into shape. So that's the before I get the fingerboard clean. First thing I'm going to do is apply lemon oil. Doesn't matter if I get it all the way on. I'm going to use a paper towel to spread that out. I'm getting a little bit on each, in between each fret here. And then I'm going to paper towel it, let it sit for a little while, and try to loosen up any grease and grime on there. Then I'm going to clean it up a little bit more. Just going to spread it out evenly between every fret here. Really not that bad. The whole fretboard's entirely covered in lemon oil. It's going to sit for about 5 minutes. Then in this case, I am going to use some quad op steel wool, 4-0 steel wool, real fine steel wool, and clean that up. These pickups are going to come out anyway because they both need new leads. I did take those out yesterday and discovered they were just snipped. I am going to re-lead them at some point here. I did clean up the body some. There's substantial damage of some type of glue, sanding that they had done underneath here. A lot of the paint came off just with polishing, but I don't really work on something before I kind of disinfect it when it comes into me this dirty. So the first thing that got done yesterday was a little light Lysol cleaning and just clean it up, which looks a lot better already right now. So we'll let that sit, then I'll polish these frets. Since I'm about to steel wool this after it's sat for about 5 or 7 minutes, I would usually just mask these pickups off, but since I have to put new leads on them anyway, I'm going to go ahead and remove the pickups right now. There's the 4 screws out of there. This is what I'm talking about, just being snipped. So I got a gray lead. Bridge is marked with a B for bridge. The big reveal on the neck. Now those screws are out. I'll bet the lead's going to be black, and I'll bet we'll find an N for neck. All parts are going into their own Ziploc bag. At this point, I'm probably just going to take the tremolo off as well. I want to note what this bridge looks like when I'm taking it out of here, because I will be soaking it in vinegar a little bit. You see all the hairs and stuff that are stuck in these springs. After I soak it in a little vinegar for just a little bit, I'll blow it out with air, oil up the springs real good. It'll look like brand new. Just a quick note here too. You see how loose this is to begin with? This is not a mistake. Tremolos are not supposed to be tightened all the way down to the body as hard as possible. So if you can see here, I have a gap there that I want to maintain so that the tremolo can actually pivot on those knife edges. So you don't want those screws, these screws right here, cranked all the way down on your bridge. If this looked like it was better wood underneath, this is a solid wood body, but I'm pretty sure it's basswood, which is a fairly plain old nothing wood. It doesn't look like much. This guitar is so beat up, it's actually a candidate, but I would... I don't know if I want to get into stripping polyurethane off of the guitar or going into what goes into that, but you got to use a heat gun is the best way of doing it. Takes a lot of work, a lot of scraping, a lot of sanding, and I may opt to put a new just pick guard over this. Make a pick guard that hides a lot of that and let it kind of look relict. Not really put too much more time in this. I think I got the fret already fixed a lot better. Over here, that 8th fret, it's still a little wobbly, but what I think once I crown a little bit more and sand it, it'll at least be acceptable. I may end up putting a new fret in there still, we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and get it polished up. A peek at our fingerboard after a little bit of cleaning and oiling. Overall, the frets are in really good shape. 8, 9 has a nick in it. I did notice down here, it's got to be what, 22? Right there, right around where the D string would cross it. So they're not perfect, but this neck is nice and straight, made out of good woods. Hard rock maple, rosewood fingerboard still. Little ding there. It needs some fret work. If I keep this, it'll get a fret level. I may just take it at this point and put the neck on reverb. I'm not sure. Interested in what I'll do with the body, but it does all fit together, so we'll see what happens. After cleaning this up, I guess it actually is black sparkle finish. I don't know how sparkly we can call that. So here I have the 2 pickups from the Dean Vendetta that need to have their leads extended, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and strip away a little bit of the wire on each pickup and test to make sure the pickups are even valid before I go through the problem of extending their leads. I've gone away to strip a little insulation on each one, and I also just retinned the front, just a little bit of wire on the end there to keep them from fraying anymore. And then I'm going to test them on the meter in a second. Okay, I got the meter hooked up on ohms on that bridge, and Dean isn't screwing around. A 1469 humbucker. I do not have 4 coils on this. I just have, or 4 leads. I just have the 2 leads, a ground and a hot. That one's good to go ahead and extend the lead on. I'm selecting some shielded stock wire. I'm going to split this wire in half, which isn't going to give me color code on those, so I'm going to use some heat shrink to put some color coding on, and some heat shrink to hide the seal between the existing cable and the new replacement cable. Now, while I'll be heat shrinking all of this to hide the splice of cable, I'm going to put an additional little piece of heat shrink on the end of this so that that positive has an extra protection, so that positive is completely covered from the negative when it's hooked up inside the other heat shrink. Here's that first positive lead soldered in place with heat shrink over it, so the negative wire has no chance of hitting that positive and shorting it out. It's what they call a J-hook attachment. You'll see it in amps when you recap and stuff, where you're bending a little J on the end of each wire. This only works in solid core wire, or if you have your wire tinned. That's now fused with solder. I'm going to go ahead and check with the multimeter to ensure that the new leads have connectivity back to the coil itself, and then I'll go ahead and wrap that up with heat shrink. Okay, here's our new lead and the end of our new lead, and we have exactly the same ohms, so I'm going to go ahead and seal this one up with heat shrink. Okay, I'm going to repeat the same process for this bridge pickup. We have both leads extended on both pickups, double tested that we have connectivity, they're both working. Since I used the same color shielded wire for both of them, I put a couple pieces of blue shrink wrap right there on my bridge pickup. Blue for bridge. Plus this video will help me remember as well. So, well, we have the re-lead done on the Dean Vendetta. At the end of what I'm doing to this today, but I've extended the leads here already successfully. I'll plan on maybe even wiring it up tonight, maybe fitting it with a nut later. Cleaned it up, tightened up all the tuning machines, conditioned the fingerboard. I've dressed that 8th fret a little bit with some mild shaping with some sanders and some files. I got a nut that probably fits this stock. I have a bone nut too, but I don't know if I'm cutting a bone nut for this guitar or not. That probably has something that'll fit. I'm sure I have potentiometers I'll switch to. I might even have this put together this evening, so